to you and welcome to On the Mark with Mark Papa. I'm Gary Byron. Mark is with Financial Resources Group. You can find them online at www.f, as in Frank, R Plan. That's frplan.com. Also, you can schedule a no-obligation consultation with him. 860-657-8380. Let me repeat that for you. 860-657-8380. Financial Resources Group located in Glastonbury, Connecticut. Well, good morning.
Hey, Gary, good morning. How are you? How was your Labor Day?
I tell you, I seldom take in every day of a holiday weekend. But every day was something fun and exciting. Down the shoreline, just about every day. I'm a beach guy. I love being out in the sun. What about you? And do anything great? Anything cool?
I had it was a pretty busy weekend, actually. So
you're a family. You have a kid. You have a child. You have a son, right?
Yeah, busy weekend. UConn football. Go UConn. Go Huskies.
They beat the Central, yeah.
Yeah, it was a really good game, other than the very first play of the game. Struggled a bit, and hopefully, I'm sure it won't take much film to fix that problem. Bad snap. But other than that, it was a great experience. Went to Rensselaer with my son, watched the football game, and then the next day he had his football game. We drove all the way down to beautiful New Milford High School and Middle School for his football game, which I thought he played very well.
Quite a hike.
They didn't win, but he had some very bright spots, a real nice interception, ran for like 50 yards. So I was impressed, and he's loving it. So, and then, obviously, Monday just found something to do. And then
wasn't this nice Monday?
Yeah, no.
Around here, down the shore was a little nicer.
Yeah, it wasn't that nice. But Sunday afternoon was nice, and I went up to Crystal Ridge in Glastonbury. Beautiful, beautiful views up there.
Nice winery.
Excellent place. So I know we saw each other there not last year.
Oh yeah, we did.
Bumped into each other, so it was good.
But did you watch the Belichick game?
Only part of it,
That's all you needed to watch. The first half was over after the first half, practically.
Yeah, I know. I know they tried to hype it up a little bit in the beginning, but it's going to be a long road. Look at let's take a look at UConn. Look at how long it's taken Mara to turn this team around. You can be a great coach, but you need. You have the portal now and the NIL and all this. NCAA. It's hard to keep these players on your team, but then again, it takes a long time to get. To recruit and get people to work as a team and make sure everybody's doing their job when they need to do it. So it's a process, and it's going to be a little bit of time. But he's taken on the challenge, and we'll see where it goes.
Does he ever go back to the NFL and break Shula's record?
No. If I had a 25-year-old wife, I'd be retired right now.
Well, that's not his wife.
If I were him, though, Anyway, why don't we get we had an exciting week too. I flew to Minnesota, so we'll talk about that. And I was in Minnesota for 2 days, middle of the week, so that was a really exciting opportunity, and that's going to be the crux of today's show.
Yeah, I want to dive into this this big claim. All right, you said that a Roth IRA conversion can increase lifetime tax-free wealth by up to, what'd you say, 97%? All right, so break this down for us.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what I did was, there's a gentleman by the name of Steve Hutchinson. He's been in the business for about 40 years. He's also a software programmer. And he came up with this Roth conversion strategy called the Roth Blueprint. So that's how I was there. I was there with Steve, the actual owner and founder of the company, with a room maybe about 20, 30 guys, different reps, in the middle of Minnesota, Eden Prairie to be specific. This day definitely comes from just the power of tax-free compounding and then tax-free distributions. So again, it's a hypothetical number, obviously, but what we're really looking to do, Gary, is we're trying to get people to understand that there is $27 trillion trapped in IRAs and 401ks. That is all going to be taxed. And through this interview, what I want to do is detail all the various pitfalls of leaving your money in a traditional IRA until you're 73 or 75, depending on when you're born. And if you do that, you're not going to have the same retirement. Your $1 million retirement is worth $700,000 after taxes. And that's not anything that's going to with where we are. Just a quick overview: tax rates and a lot that's just happened. We have a very short window. So with $27 trillion trapped in IRAs, $1 trillion in debt being added every 5 months, Gary, $1 trillion in national debt every 5 months. There is a very short window for folks, our listeners, to convert their traditional IRAs or 401ks to Roth IRAs so that they can enjoy that tax-free income for the rest of their life. And so, I'm happy to get into it with you.
So let's back up a bit. How did you come to learn about your strategy here? Because I understand it. Well, you said you spent a couple of days in Minnesota trading with that Steve Hutchinson guy. But go into that a little bit more.
Well, interesting enough, it was another holiday, 4th of July. I was sitting home. Not much going on the weekend. It was a Sunday. And, I had gotten an email from the people I work with in Minnesota, who are amazing people, by the way. There's just something about the Midwest, but they're just straight shooters. They're honest. They're knowledgeable. I can trust them. And at first I was a little skeptical, just like going into anything. I'm like, well, this guy's making some pretty bold claims. How is he going to back it up? Well, with the presentation, by the way, I'm going to be doing Ruth Chris. This was so powerful, Gary. On September the 9th, I'm going to be doing Ruth Chris Steakhouse on Tuesday, September 9th at 6:30. I have 40 bookings, and I have 73 people on my wait list.
We got to do another one.
And I'm going to have to
look
do
at
another
October.
One.
Look at October.
So I'm going to be hopefully adding later September, maybe the last week of September and the first week of October, just to accommodate the demand for that. But I listened to his presentation, and then he showed us very specifically the examples and all the different effects, the compounding effects of not whether it's an opportunity cost of not doing the Roth IRA, or if it's just paying the taxes, what that does to your tax brackets. And we're going to go through that today. All the chain reactions, Gary, of not doing that IRA, that Roth conversion as your money grows over time, and just having an RMD strategy where, okay, wait till you're 73 to take the RMD is a horrible strategy. And unfortunately, that's the strategy that I would say way too many people are implementing. And let me tell you why that is the case, Gary. Let's say I'm a financial advisor and I make my 1% fee. Okay? You're a $1 million client of mine. I convert your Roth, you pay the tax. Now, after converting that Roth, it's only worth $800,000. What happened to my paycheck?
It went down.
Yeah, by 20%. So why do you think most advisors are not, working on these Roth conversions for their clients the way they should be and letting them know? Now, most people don't want to do a Roth conversion because the first thing they're going to see is, well, my balance is going to go down, or I'm going to have to pay a big tax bill. If it's done correctly through the Roth Blueprint software, your balance isn't going to go down. We have a strategic way of actually doing the Roth conversion so that you get to, at the end of the conversion, you still get to keep your balance, and that balance is now tax-free. So that's what this Roth conversion software does. And
Go ahead.
No.
Well, just speaking of taxes, let's talk a little bit about the OBBB extended tax cuts. Why is there such a limited window to work with these low tax brackets, especially, as you were just saying, with the national debt growing by $1 trillion every 5 months, and 27, what'd you say a little while ago, 27 trillion sitting in traditional IRAs and 401k type plans? You said that a moment ago.
Yeah. At some point, Gary, even if you look at the news this week, what's happening to the bond market? Bond yields are actually rising right now. One, because of the tariff ruling, which I think is going to be fine in the Supreme Court, and then Trump has plenty of other tools to continue those tariffs, different rules, different laws. However, that's jittering the market. September is historically not that great of a month for the market. However, I will also add in, with $27 trillion in borrowing being added that quickly, the compounding interest, that here we are possibly getting 1 or 2 rate cuts, and interest rates are going up naturally on that news, on the tariff news, and the fact that people are worried about the national debt growing so much. And that means, there's only so much money left in the world to buy our bonds, Gary. And if we're, spending and borrowing and we're not cutting the way we need to, that's going to be a huge problem. So
what happens ultimately then?
The only thing that can happen to fix that problem is for taxes to go up. So with that being passed, now they say the tax cuts are permanent. Let's face it. There's always a back door in Congress. You were in the legislature. Nothing's ever really permanent. There's always a loophole. There's always a back door. The lawyers are going to figure it out. But, they can just repeal that. And, depending on what's going to happen, I think the next ruling, I think they need a 2/3 in order to a 2/3 majority in order to overturn it. But let's face the facts. If the government's going to go broke, which we are very quickly, they're going to have to raise taxes. It's really that simple. So
what do you see Trump doing? Do you see a balanced budget at any time soon?
I have no idea. I really don't. I don't really see anybody being willing to balance the budget. I think they're trying to balance the budget on economic growth. I think they're trying to balance it on tariffs. I think they're trying to balance it with, lower taxes and using the Laffer curve, which I do believe works. You get more overall revenue. The problem is it doesn't matter how much revenue you get. And if you're still spending more than you're taking in, it's going to cause a deficit. So until there's some honest, some true discipline in that. But, we both know that Congress, legislators, politicians love to spend money.
Yeah, but as you said, we're going to get to the end of that. So
it's got to come to an end.
What will happen? I mean, you say you're going to have to raise taxes.
I don't know. I mean, the only answer is that taxes are going to have to go up. And if your money's trapped in an IRA, that means you're going to have multiple problems. That means that the retirement you thought you're going to have isn't really there. The money that you saved, because again, you started your 401k. A lot of people, when it first came out, years ago, I think it was the 80s or whatever, late 70s or 80s, they started their 401k. And, when they were 27, 28 years old, pensions were still popular, but, more and more pensions have gone away. So people have pumped lots of money. So you get a nice tax break on that IRA on a way in, on a small balance. But that balance grows to a big balance down the road, and the big balance is what's getting taxed. What we want to do is be able to, convert that money now before those tax rates go up. And we have a window of opportunity. I think it's about 8 years or so to get that done. After that, I don't think we're going to have a shot at doing these conversions at such low tax rates. So it's time to act. If you're turning 59 or 60 now or 59 and a half now, it's time to start having the conversation about the Roth conversion and using the Roth conversion strategy that we're able to implement for folks.
Wow, what a wake-up call. You also mentioned the double compounding cost. That could drain over like $500,000 from someone's retirement. What's that about? And by the way, how does the Roth Blueprint help with this?
Well, basically, when you eliminate, the process is to eliminate our required minimum distributions. When you eliminate those, because that money is forced upon you. And there's a lot of people, especially if you're savers, you have clients that have their Social Security, they maybe have a pension, maybe there's a spouse working, whatever the case may be. That RMD, required minimum distribution, is forced upon you whether you need it or not. Now, there's very limited ways of getting rid of that required minimum distribution. One of them is what's called a qualified QCD. You can give that to charity, but now you're giving the money to charity, not your family. I think charity begins at home, right? And a lot of people, you can't gift your kids from an IRA. You have to do that from a bank account or a brokerage account. So that doesn't really work. Now, if you're very charitable and you're all set, and then fine, you can eliminate that tax problem, giving it to charity. But the big problem is that money is going to continue to grow, and over time, as that IRA grows, you can essentially go into a higher and higher tax bracket because that RMD gets bigger and bigger each year. Okay, and that becomes a problem for retirees, and that puts them in a higher bracket. That means they have to withhold more tax. That means that you have other problems. For example, your Social Security is going to be taxed at the maximum of 85%. That gets added to your adjusted gross income. You also have issues of moving up into a higher tax bracket. Now you move to a higher tax bracket, that means your Medicare premiums can also increase. And that $500,000 that we're referring to would be, in the example that I'll provide in my presentation, is the increase in the IRRMA over time, which is called the IRRMA is basically a simple fancy smashy term for surcharge on your Medicare tax. As your income brackets go up, your Medicare premiums for both couples also go up substantially, and that's been growing at about 6% a year on average, your Medicare premiums. So you add that up, and now he runs it out to age 95. I won't get into the charts and graphs of it all, but what he talks about is the opportunity cost, that increase in Medicare premiums that you could have kept and reinvested over time, over that same period of time from 75 to 95, would it potentially be $500,000 in additional money that you would get to keep versus paying your Medicare premiums.
All right,
for
so
the same exact thing.
Regarding these RMDs, these required minimum distributions, how can they push tax rates as high as 39.6% in 2026? And how do you protect clients from the IRRMA tax that can kind of hijack Social Security checks? Oh, and how do you even convert without reducing balances or jumping brackets even?
Well, okay, let me answer. Let me start with the first
I know,
part.
I'm sorry. I asked you a lot of
There's
questions.
There's really only one way to eliminate your required minimum distribution. One is to have no money, which isn't a good option. The next option is to come up with a Roth conversion strategy. So what the software does is the software will show you, you actually calculate, say I want to stay in the 24 bracket. I'm age 62. I don't have to take my money out to age 73. And what the software will do will calculate how much you can convert before you go to the next tax bracket. So it might take 5, 6, 7, 8 years. That's one way. Other ways, there's certain products that will give you a bonus to help you pay the taxes up front. You can utilize that, and that will give you a bit of a boost so that you're not getting hit with a big tax bill, and that's help offsetting it. And then that's something that you could hold over time, convert your Roth, and then you could dollar cost average that back into the stock market if you want to, depending on the timing is good. So it leaves you with a lot of flexibility. But the last thing you want to do is convert your Roth, $1 million worth of Roth IRA money, have the market go down, lose 20% or even 30% like the NASDAQ did in 2022. Everybody's riding the sugar high of the AI wave, and everyone's pumping out their chest. The returns are great. But I mentioned I think it was the last time, one of the last radio shows, 2 stocks made up 55% of the S&P 500's return. Both were artificial intelligence related, and it's starting to smell a little bit like the dot-com bubble. All right, there's a lot of excitement regarding AI, but let's face it, the underlying market, hopefully we see some rotation into other sectors, but it's not all that healthy. Let's not pretend that this is going to continue to keep cruising. My point is, if you're not protecting that balance on the conversion, you just paid taxes on $1 million, and now you're only left with $700,000 because the market crashed. How good would that be?
Folks, you are listening to On the Mark along with Mark Papa. I'm Gary Byron. Mark Papa with the Financial Resources Group out of Glastonbury. You can find them online at frplan.com, as well as schedule a no-obligation consultation with Mark. 860-657-8380. And by the way, a major announcement coming up at the end of this show, and it has to do with this show. So let me give that number one more time, 860-657-8380. Mark talked about an event that he is hosting over at Ruth Steakhouse on the Berlin Turnpike in Newington later this month. Looks like it's already filled up, but he's looking at a date for October. So for the people who missed out for this month, there's always next month. Just stay tuned, and we'll keep you posted on that date. And again, more break. We'll give you I got big news regarding this show coming up at the end of the show this morning. All right. Can you just briefly, Mark, outline the 6 chain reactions of taxation in retirement that's all tied to IRA accounts?
Absolutely, Gary. And it's all interrelated because, again, if you stay in that traditional IRA, you're going to be subject to all sorts of different taxes, all sorts of different triggers. We call them the chain reactions. And we go over in the presentation all 6 of these. So I'm going to go over them briefly. I'm not going to get into a lot of details. But let's first thing it does is your adjusted gross income in higher brackets. Those withdrawals where you're taking those required minimum distributions could boost your adjusted gross income, pushing you into a higher tax bracket and increasing taxes on all your income. Now, that's not including anything like capital gains that you might get from old mutual funds or other income that you might get, or let's say you sell your mom's home who's in a nursing home, or let's say You might, get hit, unnecessarily, your bank interest. But this is just plain old Social Security can be taxed as high as 85%. And
wow.
I think most people will fall into that category. In addition, the next thing would be your AGI goes up, then your Social Security is being taxed at a higher rate. And then what happens also, you have what I mentioned, IRRMA, which is income-related monthly adjustment amount. That is the surcharge on your Medicare premiums. That can also go up. And then basically, when it hijacks your Social Security check, it gets deducted from your Social Security. So now your Medicare premium is going up. Now, the one that's even awful, Gary, you know what the average age, this is a trick question, average age of a widow in the United States is? You'll be shocked.
77.
77. That would be life expectancy for most people. Depending on who you talk to, I've seen the average age of a widow is as low as 59 and a half.
But what's the average? You said that you could see it as low as.
Yeah. So, and then there was another statistic that said there's a 33 to 50% chance that number, goes to like 65. But it's a lot younger than you would expect. Okay. Jeez. A lot younger than you would expect. It's kind of scary. So a lot of women especially should be concerned about this type of Roth conversion. Not only do you want to be left with some security when you pass on, your husband, if you're going to lose a spouse, but when you lose a spouse, that means now you have to file your taxes as a single taxpayer. And guess what happens to the tax brackets then? Do you think they go up or they go down as a single taxpayer?
Oh, they're going to go up.
They're going to go up.
Yeah. Not
only are they going to go up, so you have to file single, so you're going to face higher brackets on the same income, and it gets even worse with the required minimum distributions that you have to take. And then another one would be the inheritance for your heirs. Now, most people, whatever, let them pay the tax, but what ends up happening, if you're dying in your mid-80s, and your kids, let's say you had your kids at an average age of 30, now your kids are in their peak earning years, they're 55 and 60. They're peaking out on their earnings. Now they have to take out $100,000 a year out of an IRA because it has to be drained in 10 years. Now that's adding to their tax bill on top of what's already a problem, and they don't have a real easy way of fixing that, right? Because even if they're maxing out their 401k, and I've had this situation before. Thankfully, one of the clients was self-employed, so we were able to really pump up an individual 401k, and I had his spouse pump up her teacher's 403B to the max. But it did a good job of offsetting the tax. But I mean, they had to pull out $100,000 a year. Think about that on top of their joint income. So they went from like 150 to 250. Now you're in a new tax bracket. So that gets ugly really quick. And unfortunately, they didn't need the money. So, just deducting the tax is not the answer. So we need a strategy for that. So that's another reason why you'd want to limit the RMD. And then the other one, simply put, is the loss of deductions. You get phase out on deductions and credits and itemized deductions that if you're pulling the money out of a Roth won't happen, like green energy credits or other types of credits or college tuition, those type of things. So there's a lot of different reasons why people should actually, sit down and at least, the very least, get a blueprint so that they can understand what their problem is, and then we can figure out the best way to tackle it. Okay?
Incredibly valuable insights, Mark. Folks, again, Mark is hosting a packed event at Ruth Chris Steakhouse. It's coming up on September 9th. There are it's already filled up. There's no price. I can't say it's sold out, but it's filled up. 73 people on the waiting list. He's rebooking, and he's adding dates, I think, for October. Specifically for those of you are around 60, certainly older. If you've got a net worth of about $500,000 or more, Mark, how can listeners get involved?
Well, I mean, there's two ways. Obviously, I plan on running at least one seminar a month just because with the demand. There's only so much I can handle. Maybe as my business grows and I bring on some more hands, that we'll have other advisors, to be able to handle some of the volume. But the demand is very strong. So one of the ways is to come to one of my events, which again I don't have any problem booking those. Another way is to give our office a call and at 860-657-8380. Or go onto my website to book a consultation. There's an easy way to do that. The third way is to email me, Mark, M-A-R-K, at frplan.com. and say that you have an interest you'd like to meet and go over your prospects to do a Roth Blueprint. This is all I'm going to be talking about, Gary, for as long as there's this 8-year window. This is all I really, aside from the financial planning that we do, portfolio management, the estate planning, all that stuff, it all ties together, Gary. So
is that all covered in the seminar?
The estate planning?
Yeah.
We're not going to be doing a huge focus on that, but anyone who comes in to see me, I'm going to be requesting from the audience, I do want to see a copy of their power of attorney. Because I want to make sure that it's not outdated and it actually will work. We do look at tax returns. We're going to be looking at their investment statements so we can figure out how to calculate this Roth Blueprint. And I need to know where the bodies are buried. I need to know what's causing their tax problems so that we can correctly calculate what their Roth conversion is going to be. So we need to dig into the weeds and make sure that they're covered.
And that sounds exciting. I think obviously you certainly need another date in October, and I would even schedule one for November. You're onto something really big here. I think there's a lot that people will gain from this. Will certainly learn, folks. I got some real big news I'm going to share with you regarding this show in just one moment. As Mark was saying, you can check out Financial Resources Group. You can either drop by. They're in Glastonbury. Check them out online, www.frplan.com. And they've updated and revamped their entire website. You got to check it out. It's chock full of information. And that phone number, once again, to schedule a no-obligation consultation. Sit down, do the blueprint, and get yourself a free $100 gift card. Why should you pay for gas when it can be on Mark? You can do that with 860-657-8380. Again, 860-657-8380. The big announcement is in 2 weeks, happening, beginning, I should say, on the 20th of September. 2 weeks from today, check us out at our new time. Our new time is going to be 9:30. So if you look for the show now, you're not going to find it. But we're not leaving the airwaves, folks. We're just going to a new time, 9:30. Check us out beginning 2 weeks from today. That would be Saturday, September 20th. For Mark Papa, I'm Gary Byron. Thank you so much for listening to On the Mark. Until next Saturday morning, have a good one, everybody. So long.